What is the ideal bike garage? The garage mahal, if you would. I don't know, but over the past year, I've slowly chipped away at transforming this space from an uninsulated garage into a decent, workable, hopefully presentable space. This video, I'll tell you about what I have done and why. Tell you about some pieces that you guys often ask about, like these pivoting bike hooks, which are handy. Tell you about some things I wish I did but didn't, and then tell you about my methodology for organizing the madness, which is hopefully usable to you. Also, we'll talk about some little story time, like tales of missing digits now preserved in formaldehyde, not mine, but related to this story. And I'll share my hot and cold bike wash and some other organization I've got in my office adjacent to here. If you're looking at tidying up your bike space this winter, hopefully this will be helpful. Sit back and let's dig into the Delaney Garage Overhaul 2024. So I live in Boulder, Colorado, home to lots of outdoor nuts, including a man by the name of Gary Neptune, who founded Neptune Mountaineering many years ago. Gary has scaled Mount Everest, among other mountains, multiple times. Neptune Mountaineering has, in addition to its retail offerings, a little museum in the back with some of the gear from Gary and his friends and their climbing pursuits over the years, and some rather interesting artifacts. Yep, those would be the frozen digits lost to frostbite of some of his buddies. When my family and I moved into Gary and his wife BB's house, thankfully there were no detached toes lingering about, but there was some leftover wood, and my wife, when she's feeling generous, calls me a collector. When she's not so generous, calls me a hoarder. But I like to use existing stuff, so there was wood usable for workbenches, which I built into a workbench at the time. Gary had an overhang built in the garage here that I was using to store boxes. After I started this YouTube channel, I knew I needed to clean up the visuals of the place and also get it insulated because it was freezing in the winter and sweltering in the summer. So step one was demoing the old stuff. Sorry, Gary, pulling out the overhang where I stored bike boxes, put in insulation, just the rolls of the Pink Panther insulation in the walls. Hired somebody to do sheetrock because I can do the rock, but I can't do the tape and mud well. Before we did that, put in some electrical outlets that some parts work well, like putting in USB outlets here, which are handy for all the various chargers, the SRAM chargers, the Osceola chargers, the Shimano chargers, etc. And then on the other wall, this was like my trainer station last time, plugged in some USB-C, as well as just standard outlets for the likes of your trainers. Two other pieces of insulation. One, the flooring, just did some rubber matting. Works well enough. I was looking for some sound insulation and put some of this stuff on the garage door. That's probably not of interest to you, but if you're looking to get a warmer space, the garage doors definitely leak air like it's their job. So you can do some hard insulation or soft insulation, and that will probably cut down on the heating bill. Talk about the split unit that I've got to heat and cool this place in my office next to it in a bit. Talk about the tool organization first. In keeping with my hoarder slash cheapskate slash use what we have personality, just built with the wood that Gary left in the garage for a little workspace. Reclaimed wood on the pegboard, and then put up nails and magnetic bits for tools. While I did this for visual presentation, it's also been handy for just keeping track of stuff when I'm working on bikes. So just simple things like nails, hang your tools on, and then magnetic strips I've been quite pleased with. As far as what goes up here, the methodology I used was to dump everything on the floor and take an honest assessment of like what I actually use versus what I've just had around for a long time. Put the stuff I hadn't used in a bucket and hung the rest up here. Speaking of reclaimed stuff, my daughter had these shelves on her wall. They fell out of favor, so now they're on my wall. Random bike trophies and detritus. Second piece of the tool puzzle was this slick Husky workbench. I was too cheap to buy, but my wife got it for me for a gift, and I've been digging it. Let me flip this camera around. We'll look at what we have in here. Similar methodology for this was just take inventory of the tools that I regularly use. Allen keys, torque wrenches, three-way Allen keys, stuff for peeling off both rotors and cassettes, cable cutters, scissors, beer opener. I got some traveling tools like a torque wrench that also works well for small spaces, little measuring tapes that go in the carry-on quite nicely, gear wipes, dig those things in bulk for working around the shop and bring those with me when I travel. So the top shelf stuff is what I use all the time. If you're working on road and gravel bikes, for the most part, you don't need that many complicated tools. You know, the Allen keys and the torque wrenches will get you through most of the jobs. Definitely want a torque wrench. This is a newer version, a lot of different styles of torque wrenches. So this is your 4 Newton meter, a 5 and a 6, and then the bits are tucked away inside here. That's a handy thing and a necessary thing if you're tightening down on carbon pieces. What else do I have in here? This is stuff I don't use as often. You know, seldom cut steers on test bikes these days. SRAM is trying to make this tool no longer necessary. Derailleur hanger adjustment tool, right? Further we go, stems. Once upon a time, I would pop these guys on road and gravel bikes to get my fit dialed in, and as more bikes are coming with integrated bar stems, that's not quite as necessary anymore. Having a little valve stems, cleats, you know, your small parts bin, right? Just keep it tidy. Pumps, pedals, etc. Bar tape with the mustache on there for some random reason. And then, you know, just your all-purpose dumping grounds of bar ends, that old Ultimate stain that I have there. At one point I need to put this air pressure in the corner. This is still a area to be dialed in. That's going to be the inflation tire station with this air pressure station. Still work in progress, like I said. Up here, electronics, batteries, everything needs charging these days on bikes seemingly, right? Like coin cell for your power meter. I love this four-way charger for SRAM stuff. Got newer SHIMANO, older SHIMANO, new and old SHIMANO connector bits, SRAM batteries, etc. I needed to put this in my saddlebag today. I flatted yet again and was embarrassed that I have all these patching plugs here. I didn't have one in the pocket, duh. I also need to top off the CO2. Random electronic bits like the climbing shifters and the old style blips, climbing switches, etc. Tubes, tape gun for shipping stuff, and then another just general dumping ground. Another thing I dig about this Husky work stand you get at Home Depot is the fact that there's electric bank on the side, a bunch of standard plug outlets, and then USBs. So I can plug in stuff like, trainers and such, or I've got connections for a monitor, which I'll run Zwift connected to my laptop that'll just sit here on the desk. One more organizational piece is just good old-fashioned tubs. Tubes and various saddlebags. Bags for days, frame bags, handlebar bags, top tube bags. This is bike tester stuff. right? You probably don't need all this, but cages, various saddles, just in case the tester saddle doesn't agree with me. Tires, test tires, more test tires. I dig this Wahoo Kicker headwind. You can connect it to a bunch of different things. I connect it to my phone, so I can use that as the remote when I'm sitting there on the trainer. This is the area still to be dialed in. I'm gonna put another work stand on this, have the ultrasonic cleaner on there. I wish I'd gotten a bigger one. This is handy for smaller road cassettes, but for bigger gravel cassettes, it's not quite big enough, so I'd recommend that if you're interested in something like this, which is sweet, that you go for a bigger one. I'll put links to this one and the one I wish I had bought in the video description down below. Having an air compressor, not necessary, but quite nice. I've been using this press deflator head for many a year. I used to have the thing connected to the ceiling and the connection clapped out, but eventually, like I said, I'm going to put a table in and then mount that in the inflation station on the wall, and then put some of these wall posts, these Velo Wall Posts from Feedback, up on the wall to hang wheels on, and maybe hang some work stands on. Work stands, another key piece of the puzzle. I love the Sprinter for display. You guys have seen me use this quite a bit when talking about bikes. The Pro HD Mechanic is a super beefy one designed to handle e-bikes, but I use that for all kinds of bikes just because it's nice and sturdy. A number of you have asked about how I hang the bikes. There's a Velo Hinge from Feedback, which you can orient to pivot right or left. And then there's a little piece down below so that when you pivot the bike, it doesn't go sliding across the wall. Or you can just hang the bike straight like I have here. And then the things also close when not in use. That's the Velo Hinge. I'll put links to that guy in the video description down below. Now let's step into the press room, AKA my office. Got a couple pieces of organization here that might be relevant. We got the Velo Cache stand. When I was living in a little apartment with my wife and at the time very young son, basically this was all the space we had. That's a nice way to display bikes. Still got a few jerseys. If you guys, this is my shipping department, right? I'm out of hats, but still have a few jerseys if you want to get some jerseys from the ride. My man Zach Lee does some fantastic maps, infographic maps, illustrating the climbs around here in Boulder, Colorado. We just did Sunshine today. This is paved for the first half, and then as the graphics show, it transitions to gravel. We went up and over to Gold Hill and then came down 4 Mile. All sorts of fantastic climbs. Flagstaff is another standard. We've got a dedicated map for that. You can check out Zach's fine work at simplecyclingmaps.com. One other piece of organization, not tools, but riding stuff. Just simple containers, right? Where I put clothing organized top to bottom. Hats and head warmers up top, neck gaiters, warmers, legs, arms, knees, gels with my very fancy high-end cardboard divider, gloves, booties, and then random storage down there, and then shoes right next to it. Got all kinds of helmets, glasses, GIRO helmets, SHIMANO glasses, all kinds of recording devices in various states of disarray, hydration packs, and then a big old box of computers. To heat and cool both of these rooms, we put in this split unit, a Fujitsu unit, works great. It's a little noisy sometimes, but air conditions and heats both this office space and the garage pretty darn well. I just have to leave the door here open, and that heats or cools the garage space. Let's step outside and see the bike wash station, as it were. Not that I'm complaining, but my wife sometimes does. I've got just stuff everywhere coming in for tests, and the boxes sit around until I can put it back in the box and ship it back, so sorry, dear. Bike washing station is a humble thing. Old school ultimate stand. Ultimate became feedback, or feedback bought ultimate, I should say. These stands have been kicking for years. I've had this guy for, I don't know, 18, 19 years. I have no idea. Hang the hose on there and then run the hose through the dog door to the laundry sink and the hot cold tap. At our old place, we put in a hot cold bib outside, which was nice. Should probably get around to doing that, but in the meantime, dog door does the trick. For wheel storage, got these Velo Wall Posts, which fold up. You can also hang bikes by them. Managed to put all sorts of wheels up there. One goal of the reorganization was just to keep things off the ground. So as you notice, there's, you know, a good couple feet. The last setup I had, bikes were a lot lower, which made it a lot more difficult to get in there and clean. So hanging them up a little bit higher, and the same with this little workbench, just having nothing underneath makes it easier to both store things and clean underneath it. I had a lot of help from my friends in putting this together, especially when my shoulder was busted up. I definitely milked that. Thanks Doug Williams for helping with these Velo hinges. Nick Chagas for putting up the Velo Wall Posts. I'll put links to all the tools and the work stands, the hangers, the racks, the Husky workbench, etc. in the video description below, so you can check those out. So that's what I did here in the Delaney garage to make it a more functional, usable, and hopefully better looking space. Let me know what questions you have. If you did some cool stuff in your garage, let me know how you did it. As always, appreciate you watching, appreciate you subscribing, and I'd like to wish you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Hope you can get out there and enjoy the ride.